first I put the flour and the salt in a bowl, and I just stir that in. And then I make a well in the middle that I'm going to put the oil and the water in. I'm doing a double batch, so I did 2.5 cups of flour, and then I'm going to get my oil and water. Okay, then I measure out the oil, and in this case I'm making 2, so it's a 1/2 cup each. I put in a cup of oil, and then I just fill up my water, 6 tablespoons, and pour those in on top. Then when I have my 6 tablespoons of oil or of water plus my oil, and if I had just doing 1, I would do a 1/2 cup and either 2 or 3 tablespoons, and I'm going to pour that oil all right into the bowl, and I would get a scraper and scrape that out. I poured that into the well then and scraped everything out, and now I'm going to stir it around with the fork. And I stir it until everything's all mixed in pretty well. And it should form a very soft ball. It should look about like this. It looks a little bit gluey. You don't want to overwork your dough. So as soon as that's mixed in, it's good to stop. And then we're going to get out a couple pieces of wax paper and roll it out. Okay, now I'm ready to get rolling. And what I do is I moisten the counter, and that will keep the wax paper from sliding. And I put the wax paper down, and I put this in the center and just pat it out. Kind of do the edges, and then put the other piece on top and start rolling. And I roll in each direction. I push from the center out so the edges don't get too thin. And it's going to sneak outside your wax paper a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, once it's all rolled out, and you notice you might have little streaks, that doesn't matter anything. It's better to leave it streaky like that than over mix it. And notice it's not super even on the edges. That's not a big problem either. Okay, so now we got to get it in the pan. The pie plate, so you get your pie plate ready, and you take this off. You have to be really careful that you don't rip anything, so sometimes you have to nudge it along. And then we pick this up. Notice it escaped out of the wax paper a little bit. That's okay. And then we're going to place this over the top of the pie plate. The wax paper side up. With the wax paper on, I still kind of work it down into the pie plate, being careful not to tear it. And now I take this wax paper off. And this can get a little bit tricky. So you kind of have to milk it along, trying not to rip the pie crust. And I'm rushing a little bit so that we can get through. But you might take a little bit of time doing this. And you might push it down with one hand as you're peeling with the other. Once you get that off, again, you'll want to pull this up and make sure that it's all the way down into the pie plate. And if you made any tears or rips, go ahead and fix those by just pressing the dough together. And then you're going to roll this on the edge. And I just roll all the way around. And some of this has come off. I just stick it up here. And continue to roll, grabbing some of the extra that's fallen off. And roll this all up and under. Again, if any edge is too thin, I can grab any of the extras that have fallen off, patch it up in here. And if you want to do a fancy edge, you can get a fork and press, but I prefer to use this method. And I simply hold my hands like this and press to make a little edge all the way along on the pie crust. And the pie crust is ready to fill and bake.